Welcome to this episode of The Build-Up, presented by the Florida Home Builders Association, serving up fresh perspectives on politics, building, and beyond.
Welcome to another episode of The Build-Up. This is our SEBC series. We're continuing. I'm Ryan Benson, co-owner of A. Vernon Allen Builder in Naples and Sanibel Island. And with me is John Riddle of Turning Leaf Custom Homes. And today we have another great guest here for the Democratic response. Just kidding. Is Representative Daley. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. We appreciate the opportunity. So again, I'll start on the lighter notes, and then we'll get into some of the policy and politics for it. So tell us about your background growing up, how you got into politics.
Sure. So first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's very exciting, and it's a very professional setup, by the way. I actually didn't realize there was a camera until just now either, so we're doing great.
We told him that. We didn't tell him.
All good. For me, it started a long time ago. When I was a freshman at Florida State University, I had the opportunity to work in Tallahassee in the Capitol as an intern. I just started, answering phones and talking to constituents and setting up meetings and
for a rep at the time,
for a representative at the time,
okay.
Representative Ari Porth, who represented Northwest Broward County in the Florida House for several years. And I guess I made good coffee. 6 months later, he hired me as his full-time legislative aide. So I balanced both. But, I started in the process at 19 years old, and having the opportunity to work on state policy with him in his office that young really, made an impact, and I kind of caught the bug. So as I, worked my way through Florida State and graduated and decided to come home back to my hometown of Coral Springs, decided that I wanted to pursue public service and ran for a Coral Springs City Commission seat, ran an 18-month-long campaign, wore through 2 pairs of dress shoes. And, I knocked on about 6,000 doors, mostly by myself. Those local races, they're not sexy. So I would bribe my friends with pizza and beer to come out and knock on doors with me. And was fortunate to be elected first time in 2012, the first election. And I've been fortunate to represent, that area, Coral Springs and Northwest Broward ever since. Made the transition to the Florida House in 2019. There was an opening. Jared Moskowitz was in the seat. He took the appointment to go to FDEM, the Division of Emergency Management. And so I was fortunate to prevail in that special election. Went unopposed. It's a nice way to win. And have had the good fortune to serve in the Florida House ever since. My tie to home building is I'm an attorney by trade. I think it's when I first announced for the House, I was the in-house corporate counsel to 13th Floor Homes, based out of South Florida. They do wonderful work and just a great team. And they gave me the flexibility to go ahead and pursue the seat and run for the state house. And so when I came in and I met, some of your members and your team with Rusty and Carrie and everybody who does a great job, I was kind of a step ahead of some other members who are brand new to the process because I had an understanding of your issue, right? And it was a good mix for me as both a former city elected official who can understand some things that the cities may want or need, but also understand where you guys are coming from. It is 13th Floor has been a member and been very active as well. And so, I got to go in advance to a lot of the meetings and understand the issues from both sides. And so that's what I've tried to do is kind of be a middle ground individual, particularly in the Democratic caucus for your issues, right? Making sure that my colleagues understand both sides of the issue. You can vote, your conscience, vote your district, vote whatever you think is right, but make sure you at least understand both sides. That's how I try to position myself in Tallahassee on your issues and others.
So let's dive right into that. Last session, you brought forward a bill, 755, I believe we talked about. It's a construction fraud. Would you like to, let's elaborate a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So having the opportunity to work on a bill with you all was a great chance, great opportunity. It's important, right? I think our members represent the good actors, right? You're doing it right. You're trying to do a good job. And the state is rampant with folks who are not. It's fraudulent contractors, whether that's unlicensed contract or whatever it is. And so Rusty, there was one provision of the bill that was very important to me. He brought me the additional language, very important to you all. And we kind of combined the two, got it filed.
What was that one provision that was important to you?
So up until about a week ago, I was a courtroom prosecutor in Broward County. So I had been trying for the last 2 years a number of cases, unlicensed contracting cases where people were taken for everything they had. And I really didn't think it was appropriate that it was I think it's a second-degree misdemeanor in most cases, maybe first-degree misdemeanor in other cases, depending on the value. right? And so you have these people just getting absolutely fleeced. Some cases, their life savings because they, didn't know any better. And in some cases, they knew better. I had one individual, actually a probation officer in the courtroom that was sharing their story with me. And they said, we did our due diligence. We did everything. We asked for recommendations. We did everything we could. And we paid somebody $20,000 and they completely fleeced us. And so for me, I wanted enhanced penalties. I wanted faster processing because sometimes these cases at DBPR can drag on a little bit, and then they go to the state attorney's office, and then the process starts.
Yeah.
So a lot of these cases, these individuals are, like I said, getting their life savings taken away from them. They're never going to get that back. And you have the bad actors who are doing it to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people all at a time because, hey, it's a second-degree misdemeanor, whatever, I'll plea it out to a withholding court costs or some term of probation,
Sure.
knowing full well they're never going to make that restitution payment. That person's going to be out that money. So that for me was the real passion project portion, and getting to work with the association directly on the legislation. It was a great opportunity, and I'm hoping to do so again.
I think our approach to it this time, and we'll obviously be in discussions with you about it, is we want to compartmentalize it into the bad actors that are contracting without a license, and then within our industry, those that are licensed that are being either irresponsible or deceitful with the money.
Right.
Because to us, it's two very different categories.
Sure.
And so we're going to work this session in drafting language that could address both, because it is something that that is a huge issue in our industry, and especially, so I'm from Southwest Florida, and we had hurricane, right, for it. So from that, we have all these bad actors that come in, some licensed, some unlicensed, but whether you are or not, you're stealing. And a lot of them come when we're at our most vulnerable in the states of emergency. So this year, one of our top priorities, we put it as a tier 1 priority, is addressing the contractor fraud and contracting without a license fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on that.
We had some good discussion on that today. Our members really want that as a tier 1. That's going to be one of our top priorities. So I'm sure we're going to come back and see you. But our members keep telling us that we have to get better at this. We have to figure out how to get this. So as Ryan said, the bad actors we're getting rid of.
But then we also want to look at from your experience at Coral Springs down at the city level, we have building permit bottlenecks. We have processes that are not standardized. They change as far as the requirements. There's been numerous efforts to try and streamline those processes, and we do understand the counties and municipalities have budgets to uphold. A lot of people don't want these jobs. They're too hard to fill. So we're working on something to make their life a little easier, be able to streamline that. So
Sure.
we appreciate going over those with you as well.
Sure.
So back to, are you still working with a home builder, or you said you'd moved on to other ventures?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to stay with 13th Floor for several years, and then transitioned to the Broward State Attorney's Office. So I had been a prosecutor, put a pause on home building, and certainly still active with you all up here. But in a traditional day-to-day sense, I was a courtroom prosecutor. So in court, handling cases and trials and whatnot, which was a lot of fun to balance as a legislator, spending more and more time in Tallahassee. Did just leave the State Attorney's Office last Friday and opened my own practice.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So gone back into a lot of that same area. So land use and zoning, because that's what I originally had done. That's why I had joined a home builder. So, to your point about the permitting, and look, I heard it just from 3 or 4 people just at the end of the luncheon just now. It is a big deal. And look, and again, kind of going back to what I said before, I can see both sides, right? And I think, and I look forward to having that conversation with you guys and Rusty as we go into the next legislative session, and candidly bringing the city folks to the table as well. And I think sometimes, and you guys always do a really good job kind of threading the needle, because I think some organizations in Tallahassee come up with this preemption, and they say, well, that's it. We have to slap everybody down. Right. And there are cases where it is warranted. I'm traditionally a home rule guy, but there are cases where preemption is warranted. And you guys have always done a good job of threading that needle of, okay, well, what gets us to where we need to be without being overly punitive, without taking all of the rights, I guess, of the cities away. You guys do that better than most. And so I'd love to be part of that conversation as we move forward, because you're right. We do need to do something, right? Every single day, there's thousands of people moving to the state of Florida, and they need a place to live, right? You guys know that better than anybody. And so how do we streamline the process? How do we make sure that, the checks and balances are there, but it is a good atmosphere for you all to come in and do what you need to do so we can thrive as a state?
So what's next politically? I mean, you've got term limits in the House. So, and now from a business life standpoint, you've shifted over to your own practice, presumably to give yourself some flexibility versus, working for the prosecutor's office. So where to next?
So thank you for asking. I believe it or not, I can't believe it. I'm coming up on the end of my term. I've got one more term in the Florida House. My district area for the Senate is Senator Tina Polsky. I have a very good relationship with Senator Polsky. I think she's done some great work in Tallahassee. She is nearing the end of her term. She is able to run for one additional term. We'll see what happens there. I'd ideally like to follow in her footsteps when that time comes and run for the state Senate. I've had a long history in the legislature. I respect the institution of the legislature. I think you may have seen some of that in the luncheon we just had for our listeners. Congressman Donalds, although we don't agree politically on much, is a good friend. I've worked with him on issues. My first legislative session, had the opportunity to spend a ton of time with him. And so much about Tallahassee is about the relationships. And I think it has to be about that. I think it has to be about having the good relationships and doing the good work that we need for the state, not so much what letter is next to your name, right? I'm a member of the minority party in Tallahassee, but that doesn't mean that we can't get things done for Floridians. And that's what I've been able to do in my time in the House. I've passed, at this point, looks like 18 pieces of legislation that have gone into law. Not all of them have my name on them because I'm also a big believer that I don't need the credit. I need the job done. And so that's what I've tried to do, and that's what I'll continue to do in the future in the Florida Senate.
That's so nice to hear. Really nice to hear. We had a similar conversation last night with Senator Davis, Tracy Davis, who will be the new minority leader in the Senate side. Said almost the same thing in her ability to work across the aisle. And it was brought up last night as an association and what we're representing as an industry. We're not a D or an R. We're an H.
Right.
That's where we're at. So our issues affect everybody that's looking for housing and our ability to provide housing. So thank you for that.
Sure.
That's really good to hear.
Of course.
So I'm going to close with two light questions. In Broward, which is your current district, favorite restaurant? And by the way, get ready. My follow-up is in Tallahassee. Favorite restaurant.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite restaurant in Broward. Well, I have to go with somewhere in my district, right? We're going somewhere.
Absolutely.
It would probably be appropriate.
Probably a good idea for anybody listening from the Coral Springs area. There is a really cool family-owned Italian place right down the street from where I live. It just got completely rebranded, redone. Great local family. Called Eddie and Vinny's. Highly recommended if you're in that Sample Road area. Eddie, I hope you're listening because I'm pitching your restaurant right now. It is awesome. So please go and check it out and spend some money in my district.
Awesome. And Tallahassee?
All right. Favorite or where I spend a lot of time and money?
Favorite.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Gosh, I don't know. Chuck's is pretty solid.
All right. We've heard Chuck's a couple times now.
Chuck's is pretty good.
Right.
The sushi, when you first walk in, you're like, I'm getting sushi in Tallahassee. I don't know how this is going to be.
That's right.
It's phenomenal.
All right.
Guys at Chuck's, remember this when I come in next time.
Excellent. Cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming in, and thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. Make sure you subscribe. We're available through all your major podcast platforms. Thank you again to Representative Daley, and this has been another episode of The Build Up.
Thanks, guys.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Build Up, brought to you by the Florida Home Builders Association. Keep the conversation going, and we'll catch you next time.